Now you really have a treat tonight. Your speaker, Charles E. Charlie Ryan, is a graduate of Harvard University with honors. He has had an incredible career in international banking and finance. He served as the CEO of Deutsche Bank of Russia, and he is a person who is as important as anyone in bringing capitalism to the old Soviet Union and the new Russia. He lived in Moscow for 17 years. In 2003, Charlie was named the Business Person of the Year by the American Chamber of Commerce. This, however, is not Mr. Ryan's first commencement address. His first one was at NES. NES is a new economic school located in Moscow. The Speaker of the Year after Mr. Ryan was a gentleman named Barack Obama. Charlie is a great believer in doing good and changing the world through business and capitalism. As we began our discussions on him being our speaker, Charlie had just returned from working with Senator Richard Lugar of Indiana on providing business models and sustained help and growth to Haiti. Most importantly, Charlie is a family man, and this is his second commencement today. His son's 5th grade graduation at Wayne Elementary was earlier today, and he has returned to the Radnor community, is living in Wayne. He is a 1985 graduate of Radnor High School. He is also a member of our most recent Hall of Fame. I offer to you the class of 2011, Mr. Charlie Ryan.
I want to thank you for the kind introduction. I'm really honored to be here today, and it's obviously great. Thank you so much for taking the time, families, teachers, school board, Dr. Grobman, and especially the class of 2011. Now, some of you may not know that I wasn't the original pick to speak tonight. Actually, my senior prom date from Radnor High School, Kelly Corrigan, wasn't able to make it. So I'm thinking you probably feel a little bit like an audience that's told you're going to get Oprah, and it's actually Dr. Phil that shows up. But I'm going to do my best, Dr. Phil or not, to share some thoughts about the opportunities and challenges you're facing, the same way I was thinking about them when I was sitting in your seats 26 years ago. So look around for a moment. Look at these people you're sitting next to. I think you'll be surprised how your relationships will change with your classmates after you graduate. My biggest surprise was that the love of my life was sitting somewhere near me, my wife, Karen Lambert. Although at the time I wasn't thinking love. I was a little bit grumpy with her because she'd beat me out to be valedictorian. Nonetheless, we did get married, so I'm married to a Radnor girl. So it brings me to my first point. I want to talk about Raider pride and Radnor roots. When I sold my bank in Russia, Karen and I had to decide where to go after Moscow, where we wanted to raise our children. So we dreamed a little bit. Let's go live in Paris, Buenos Aires, Manhattan. But we chose Radnor. And I think you should be really proud of your roots, and you'll draw strength from this community throughout your life. It's pretty unusual for people like Karen and I to be so close to this day with our high school friends, and that's a good indication of why Radnor is such a special place. But today I want to focus on a different kind of roots. The routes you'll choose as you travel, as opposed to the routes you put down. So my Midwestern father would say routes, as opposed to roots. I want to talk about this route you're going to take after you leave Radnor by talking a little bit about mine. So one of the defining realities of your day and age has been terrorism. In my day, it was the Cold War, a conflict between the Democratic West and the Communist East. In college, I chose to study the Soviet Union, our enemy. I wanted to be a criminologist. I wanted to pursue the pseudoscience of what the crazy Russians would get up to next. Unfortunately, by the time I graduated, the subject of my study, the Soviet Union, disappeared. So not really knowing quite what to do, I headed off to Wall Street to work in public finance, basically providing investment banking to nonprofits. I didn't really like Wall Street, but I got a good foundation of finance, which ultimately became my ticket to living and working in Moscow. The point I'm making is the world's going to change in ways you cannot predict. So you have to be ready to alter your course as you make your journey. Now, altering your course doesn't mean following the crowd. When I graduated in 1985, there was an absolute and utter consensus that there was a certain Asian country that would grow to dominate the world and pass America. Yes, I'm talking about Japan. When my friend got a job working for Kikkoman Soy Sauce, we all thought he was the man. What did people think about that kid who'd studied criminology working on Wall Street with not-for-profits? They weren't sure how things were going to turn out for me. So if you're studying Mandarin Chinese today and you really love it, and you're fascinated by Chinese culture, then pursue a life connected to China. If you're drawn to a different field because someone tells you they think it's the right thing to do, take a deep breath and think about blazing your own trail. Find something that fascinates you and work hard at it. Listen to advice, but make your own choices. Sometimes you have to turn off that irritating voice on the GPS and go there yourself. When I worked 100 hours a week on Wall Street, I used to count the minutes. When I was an entrepreneur and I was running my own bank, 15 years flew by. So 6 years after I graduated, I finally made it to Russia, and I found myself sitting in St. Petersburg with the deputy mayor of the city, a guy named Vladimir Putin. We were working together to create a plan to privatize the city's property and launch the free enterprise system. I was a little nervous. I had a basic foundation of finance. I'd studied Russia, but I was thinking, what would Putin think if he knew I was just some kid from Radnor? And they were entrusting me with the plan for the city's economic rebirth after 70 years of communism. Now, luckily, nobody knew at the time where he was headed either, so it didn't seem quite so ridiculous as it might today. But now, despite my fears, I'm convinced we did a good job for this city. How is it possible somebody 6 years from sitting in that seat could have done such a thing? Well, the truth is that what was happening in Russia at the time was unprecedented. What the city really needed was young people with energy, ideas, ready to try new things fearlessly, maybe cluelessly. It needed young people like you. And my clear message and strong belief today is that the world does really need you, and there's an exciting place in it for each of you. Now, I know what you must be thinking. The economy seems a little shaky in America today. But I promise you that the economic devastation in Russia following the collapse of the Soviet Union was far worse, and there turned out to be amazing opportunities there. Luckily, nobody told me that trying to start an investment bank in a country that didn't even have a stock market might not be such a clever idea. Now, people always look back with nostalgia. Oh, the 1990s. Those were the days. All you had to do was drop out of school, go to Silicon Valley, get a pair of flip-flops, and you too could be a dot-com king. But I'm convinced there actually are bigger opportunities out there for you in the future. You're the first generation born after the Cold War, but you're also the first generation that came to age in what's been the most profound technological revolution in the history of mankind. In the 1980s, when I wanted to visit my friend Jeff Constable at Duke to catch a basketball game, I sent him a letter, and I put a stamp on it. Today, you don't even have to fly to Moscow to do business there. You could do it on your iPhone. The truth is that many years from today, young students attending the Radnor Commencement are going to look back on you guys with envy. They're going to say, boy, that was the time when Facebook appeared. That was back before the African economy had supplanted Asia as the largest in the world. That was during the second of Britney Spears' 10 successful comebacks. So my point is we always look back with nostalgia, but we often miss what's unique about the here and the now. So this technological revolution is accelerating. And it favors the bold, it favors the global, and it favors the young. It favors you. Now, this pace of change can be a little scary. Most of your grandparents had one job their whole life. Your parents mixed it up a little more, but generally had one career and stayed on a consistent path. The changing nature of work in today's world means you're going to move around a lot more. You're going to have to try new things and will probably have multiple careers. So what it also means is you're going to have to take a different approach to education. To stay current in this world where the constant is change, education has become a lifelong pursuit. This old clearly defined order where people earned 1, 2, or in the case of my wife, the English professor, 3 diplomas, is obsolete. It's not how it's going to work. You're going to find yourself as an adult taking courses, attending conferences, learning online. So the one sort of slightly boring suggestion I'm going to make today is that you consider making education an ongoing integral part of your journey, of your route. So in conclusion, let's go back to 1985, to my Radnor High School graduation. My speaker was a guy named Dick Jackman. His daughter Mary was in my class. He was a senior executive at Sunoil. He was also my freshman baseball coach. And at our graduation, he inspired us to think about the impossible. He told us that the world was full of impossible things that were somehow possible. The example he used was of a bumblebee that scientists said should not be able to fly, but obviously did. So just the other day, I was reading the paper, and I saw that a bunch of scientists had actually figured out how the bumblebees do it. And I wondered what Mr. Jackman would think. But one thing I'm sure that Coach Jackman and I would surely agree upon is that the world is still full of wonderful and impossible things. I'm sure your parents would definitely agree that several hundreds of them are sitting in front of me today. So in conclusion, I want to say that you should remember to make your own choices, determine your own route, and never forget how strong your Radnor roots are. Thank you.